Alright, listen up, coin collectors and penny hoarders, I've got a story for you. Imagine finding a penny sitting in your pocket, just chilling there like it's no big deal, and then, bam, turns out you're holding a small fortune. Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, buckle up because today we're talking about a 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark that could be worth a whopping $1.9 million. Yes, you heard me right, $1.9 million. That's a lot of dough for a coin that you probably overlooked the last time you dug through your change jar. So, stick around as I break down why this humble penny is one of the most sought-after collectibles in the coin world. And hey, by the end of this video, you might just be checking your pockets for hidden treasures. Alright, so you're probably thinking, what makes a 1968 penny with no mint mark so special? I mean, it's just a penny, right? Wrong. If you're not paying attention, you could miss out on the chance to own a piece of history. So, let's break this down. First things first, let's talk about the basics. In 1968, the US Mint produced pennies with a variety of mint marks. Some had the famous D mint mark for Denver, while others came from Philadelphia with no mint mark at all. But here's the kicker, it's the ones from Philadelphia that became a bit, well, legendary. Take a look at this beauty. The 1968 Philadelphia pennies are supposed to have a mint mark, but some didn't. And you might think, okay, no biggie, but this little mistake turned out to be huge in the world of coin collectors. When the 1968 pennies were first released, no one noticed there was a whole batch of them without the mint mark. Fast forward a few years, and people started to realize that these pennies, due to their rarity, were worth a lot more than face value. And by a lot, I mean a lot. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Because there are only a limited number of these unmarked 1968 pennies floating around, it makes them super rare and in high demand among collectors. Think about it, this penny is almost 60 years old. It's basically the Benjamin Button of coins, it's getting more valuable the older it gets. So, let's talk numbers. The current market value for a 1968 penny with no mint mark in perfect condition is around $1.9 million. Yep, that's more than some houses in my neighborhood. And the best part? A penny like this could be sitting in your change jar right now. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, but hey, if you never look, you'll never find it. Now, let me tell you about the time I actually stumbled upon a rare coin. I was at a yard sale, yeah, the kind of place where you find old rocking chairs and slightly creepy porcelain dolls. Anyway, I'm going through a box of coins, and I find this 1970-something penny. Nothing special, I think. But as I looked closer, I noticed something odd, no mint mark. I was practically jumping up and down because, well, I didn't realize it then, but it could have been worth a decent chunk of change. Moral of the story, always check your pennies. You just never know when you'll strike gold or copper. So, now you're probably wondering, how do I spot one of these rare 1968 pennies? Great question. Let me break it down for you. First, check if your penny has the absence of a mint mark. You'll only find this on the 1968 pennies from Philadelphia. If your penny has a D or any other mint mark, it's not the one we're talking about today. Next, check the condition of the coin. A well-preserved 1968 no mint mark penny in mint condition is the golden goose here. It should be shiny, free from scratches, and have that perfect round shape. The better the condition, the higher the value. It's like getting a vintage baseball card in mint condition versus one that's been used as a coaster. Now, I know what you're thinking, great, now I have to sift through all my pennies to find this one. And yeah, that's the fun part. But don't go emptying your entire piggy bank just yet. These rare pennies are really specific, and finding one isn't as easy as just looking at any old 1968 penny. It takes time, patience, and a bit of luck. You don't want to get too carried away, especially when you find out that the value of a worn-out, beat-up 1968 penny is still just 1 cent. But if you get lucky, hey, you could have yourself a little treasure. Before you start running to your nearest coin shop, let's chat about how much these bad boys can actually sell for. Well, the value of a 1968 penny with no mint mark depends on its condition. You can expect to see one of these coins valued anywhere from $10,000 in good condition to upwards of $1.9 million in perfect condition. the higher the quality, the higher the value. If it's a pristine specimen, some collectors might even bid on it like it's a piece of rare artwork. The market really drives the price, and when a coin is as rare as this one, it becomes a real hot commodity. So, now you know what to look for when checking your pennies. But here's the thing, this might be the perfect time for you to start really digging through your change. Whether you find one of these rare 1968 pennies or not, you've learned a valuable lesson today. You never know what you might find in your own collection. Who knows, your next lucky find could be worth millions, too. Alright, folks, here's the deal. If you want more tips like this on rare coins, strategies to spot the valuable ones, or just some fun coin stories from yours truly, be sure to hit that subscribe button below. You don't want to miss out on the next coin treasure hunt. And hey, share this video with a friend who's always wondering where their pennies went. Maybe they'll find a hidden fortune, too. Hey there, coin enthusiasts. Did you know that something as small as a penny could be worth millions? No, I'm not kidding, and I'm not talking about rare ancient coins you'd find at a museum. I'm talking about a simple penny from 1986. You might be thinking, wait, a penny from 1986? My change jar's full of those. But before you toss them all into your piggy bank, hear me out. That humble 1986 no-mint mark penny could be worth up to $1.20 million. Yes, you heard me right, a penny. So, grab that magnifying glass and let's dive into how this tiny coin can be worth so much. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you might just find a golden, well, copper-colored, nugget hiding in your coin collection. Alright, let's break it down. First, let's talk about why this penny is so valuable. We all know the Lincoln cent is one of the most iconic coins in American history, but the 1986 no-mint mark penny? Well, it's a rare bird. You're probably asking yourself, what makes it so special? And that's exactly what we're getting into. Normally, pennies minted in the US have a mint mark, which tells you where they were produced, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia. But the 1986 penny? It's a no-mint mark penny, and that's where things get interesting. The story goes that there was an unusual decision made by the US Mint in 1986. Most pennies that year came from the Philadelphia Mint, but for some reason, the mint mark was left off. This wasn't supposed to happen. Pennies from Philadelphia had mint marks that year, but these no-mint mark versions were accidentally released into circulation. The result? A very rare mistake that turned this penny into a collector's dream. Now, you might be thinking, okay, sure, it's rare, but $1.2 million? How is that possible? Let me tell you, rarity plus demand equals big bucks. These pennies are extremely difficult to find in good condition, especially the ones that were kept pristine over the years. They're like unicorns, rare and magical, except they're tiny and made of copper. But before you go rummaging through all the pennies in your drawer, remember, the ones worth millions are in mint condition. We're talking about pennies with sharp details, no wear or tear, and preferably no discoloration. Finding one in such a condition is like finding a needle in a haystack. Trust me, I've tried it myself. Let me tell you a little personal story. A few years ago, I was going through a box of old coins I inherited from my grandpa. I found a few pennies from the 80s, including a 1986. Of course, I didn't think much of it. After all, who looks twice at a penny, right? But then, one of my friends, who's a coin collector, took a look at it and said, "Hey, this could be worth something." At first, I laughed it off. A penny? Worth something? But after he showed me some examples online and explained the rarity, I started to think maybe I had stumbled upon something valuable. So I sent it off to get graded. I'll tell you, that moment of anticipation waiting for it to come back was like a mini roller coaster ride. I was half expecting to find out it was worth a couple bucks, but when it came back in near perfect condition, I learned that the 1986 no-mint mark penny in that condition was easily worth several $1,000s. I didn't hit the $1 million jackpot, but it was a great reminder that sometimes treasure is hiding in the most unexpected places. The point here? Don't underestimate the power of a little coin, because you never know when you might have a rare gem sitting right under your nose. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do you know if your 1986 penny is worth $1.2 million? First off, get it checked. The best way to do that is to get your coin professionally graded by a reputable service like PCGS or NGC. They'll assess its condition, and if it's in excellent shape, you might just have a small fortune on your hands, but, of course, there are other factors that can influence a coin's value. If your penny has any damage, scratches, or signs of wear and tear, it's going to be worth a lot less than if it's been preserved in near perfect condition. You know how your favorite pair of jeans might be a little more vintage after a couple of rips and tears? Well, coins are a little more unforgiving. So keep an eye out for that. So, if you've got a 1986 penny floating around in your change jar, it might be time to take a closer look. You never know when you'll find a little coin worth a lot of cash. And hey, it's always good to check your coins because who knows, you could be the lucky one sitting on a $1.2 million penny. But here's the deal, not every penny is going to be worth a fortune. It takes a trained eye and a bit of luck. So, if you want to keep up with all the tips, tricks, and updates on coins worth a pretty penny, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you'll want to stick around for more. I'll be bringing you everything from rare finds to strategies on how to turn those ordinary coins into extraordinary wealth, and if you've got any rare coins lying around or want to share your own found $1 million coin story, drop a comment below. I love hearing from you all. Hey there, coin lovers! I've got a story that might just blow your mind. Imagine this, you're cleaning out an old drawer in your kitchen, right? You find an old penny, just like any other, and you think, this is probably worth, what, a few cents, maybe $1 at best? But hold up, what if I told you that the penny you found could actually be worth $1.3 million? Yes, you heard that right. We're talking about the 1971 Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Now, I know what you're thinking, a penny? $1 million? That's insane. Well, stick around because I'm about to show you how a simple coin can make your jaw hit the floor, and how you might just be sitting on a fortune. So, don't go anywhere. So, we're talking about the 1971 Mint Mark Lincoln penny. On the surface, it might look like any other penny in your pocket, but that little S on the back? That's the secret sauce. Let's take a closer look at why this particular penny is making waves in the coin world first. The 1971 Mint Mark penny was struck at the San Francisco Mint, and it's got some serious historical street cred. Back in 1971, the US government was dealing with the aftermath of the 1960s, where inflation and a whole bunch of economic chaos were happening. So, they decided to make the coinage a little more interesting. The 1971 penny was part of a series that included some cool mint variations. But here's the kicker, even though most 1971 pennies are pretty standard, a tiny handful of 1971 pennies are considered proof coins, super shiny and special, and what makes them even more special? Well, let's talk about rarity. You know the old saying, the rarer, the richer. A lot of these pennies were released to collectors in proof sets, but not all of them survived the test of time. Over the years, many of these pennies have either been hoarded, lost, or tossed into coin jars and forgotten about. That means if you've got one of these rare coins in great condition, you're holding onto something pretty spectacular. And now, let's talk numbers. As of right now, a well-preserved 1971 Mint Mark penny in proof condition can fetch around $1.3 million at auction. You can't make this stuff up. That's more than some people's entire life savings, just for a penny. And now, I know what you're thinking, but how do I know if my penny is worth that much? Well, great question. Let's break it down. First thing you want to check is the condition. If it looks shiny, almost like it just came out of the mint, that's a good sign. We're talking about proof coins here, coins that were specifically made for collectors, not for everyday circulation. So, if it's got that mirror-like finish, congratulations. It could be worth a lot more than you think. Next, you want to check for any signs of wear and tear. If it looks like it's been through the ringer, scratches, discoloration, or even smudges, it'll lower the value. A pristine, uncirculated 1971 penny? That's where the big bucks lie, but let's get real for a second. I know you're probably thinking, I'm never gonna find one of those. And I get it. But don't give up just yet. You'd be amazed at where rare coins can show up. Here's a funny story for you. A few years ago, I was at a flea market, just browsing, looking for some random old records and vintage trinkets. I spotted a jar full of coins, mostly pennies, nickels, and dimes. I did a quick scan, saw nothing too special, but something made me pause. I picked up a penny from the jar, and sure enough, 1971 Mint Mark. It didn't have that mirror finish, but it was in great condition. I thought, hey, maybe this is worth a little more than face value. Long story short, I took it home, did some research, and guess what? That penny turned out to be worth way more than I thought. And now, I'm not saying it was worth a cool million, but it was a solid investment. The point is, you never know when that find will happen. Coin hunting takes patience, and sometimes luck. So, what did we learn today? The 1971 mint mark Lincoln penny, while not a common sight, can be worth a staggering $1.3 million, especially if it's in excellent condition and is a proof coin. Who knew a little copper could hold so much value, right? But hey, I'm not just here to make you dream about finding treasure. I want to help you learn how to spot these kinds of coins before they slip through your fingers, before you go digging through every penny jar in your house or your neighbor's. Here's the deal: if you want more tips on valuable coins and strategies to start building your collection, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Trust me, you don't want to miss out on more awesome content like this. I'm constantly on the lookout for coins that can change your financial future, and I want to share everything I find with you. So, if you like what you heard, give this video a thumbs up, drop a comment below, and tell me what crazy coins you've stumbled upon. And if you're not already subscribed, now's the perfect time. You'll be joining a community of savvy collectors who are making real bank with their coin collections. Hey, coin collectors, or even those of you just scrolling through YouTube looking for a little fun today, have you ever found something small in your pocket, thought it was just a penny, but then realized, wait a minute, this thing is worth how much? Imagine the shock on my face when I found out that a 1973 no-mint mark Lincoln penny could be worth upwards of $1.4 million. Yeah, you heard that right, million with an M. I know you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? Trust me, I had the same reaction when I first stumbled upon this information. So, grab a snack, sit back, and let's dive into why this humble little penny could be your ticket to some serious dough. Alright, let's get into it. A 1973 no-mint mark penny, on the surface, it seems like your standard everyday coin, right? But don't let its simplicity fool you. This tiny piece of metal has a few secrets up its sleeve, and today, we're cracking the code. And now, first things first, let's talk about the 1973 penny itself. You know, Abraham Lincoln, the man on the penny, was probably not sitting in his log cabin back in 1973 wondering how his face would end up on some random penny, which, spoiler alert, could end up making people rich. I'm sure Lincoln had bigger things on his mind, like, leading the country and all that. But this specific year, 1973, has become famous because of one tiny detail: the lack of a mint mark. Mint marks are those little letters, like D for Denver or S for San Francisco, found on most coins. They tell you where the coin was made. But the 1973 no-mint mark penny? It doesn't have one. And that little detail? It can make the value of the coin skyrocket, because it's considered a rare variant. Now, you might be wondering, how rare is this thing? Well, here's where it gets interesting. Most of the pennies from 1973 were struck at the Philadelphia Mint, and typically, coins minted there have no mint mark. But the kicker here is that in 1973, a lot of those pennies were supposed to have a mint mark, but they didn't, making them an anomaly. This simple mistake, no mint mark, makes these coins a sought-after rarity. I want to give you an example of how one of these bad boys sold. There's actually a verified sale of a 1973 no mint mark penny that went for $1.4 million. One coin. Can you imagine finding something like that in your pocket change or a dusty old jar of pennies you've been meaning to sort? Well, that could be you, but here's the real kicker. I'll admit it, I had a bit of a moment when I learned about this coin. I've got a jar of pennies at home. Like, who doesn't, right? You just throw them in there because you don't know what else to do with them. It's like an adult version of the toy box from your childhood, full of random things you thought you'd never need again. So, I figured, why not take a peek through some of these old pennies? Long story short, I didn't find $1 million coin. But let me tell you, the process of sorting through those pennies was a wild ride. I felt like I was on an episode of Pawn Stars minus the camera crew and the actual antique expert. But hey, sometimes the hunt is half the fun. Anyway, back to this incredible penny. What's really important to know is how to tell if you've got one. If you've got a 1973 penny with no mint mark, that's your first clue. But it's not just about the year and the lack of a mint mark. Coin grading also plays a huge role in determining its value. If your penny is in mint condition, no pun intended, meaning it's shiny and shows minimal wear, you might be holding onto something more valuable than you thought. Coins are graded on a scale from good to mint state, and a coin in mint state can fetch a lot of money, even more than one in poor condition. So, you'll want to have that coin appraised by a professional if you suspect it's worth something. And remember, the condition and demand for the coin are key, just like when you're trying to sell your old video games online. Don't ask how I know this. Alright, now that we've had a little coin education, what do you think? You've got your pennies, maybe even a few 1973s lying around, and now you're thinking, maybe I've got a treasure chest hiding in my couch cushions. Who knows, maybe you're sitting on a gold mine without even realizing it. Before you go digging through your couch, though, a couple of things to keep in mind. First, not every 1973 no mint mark penny is going to be worth $1.4 million. You're looking for one that's in great condition, and it needs to be sold to the right buyer at the right time. But even if you don't have $1 million penny, there's still a lot to learn about coins that can be worth some serious cash. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever found a coin that was worth more than you thought? Or maybe you've got a collection of pennies or other coins gathering dust? Drop a comment below, I'd love to hear your stories. And hey, if you're into learning more about coins and want to find out which ones could make you rich, definitely hit that subscribe button. I've got more tips, tricks, and coin hunting adventures coming your way, so don't miss out. Hey, fellow coin lovers! Imagine stumbling upon a coin that's been sitting around in your change jar for decades, only to find out it's worth a whopping $1.5 million. Sounds like a fantasy, right? Well, grab your magnifying glasses because today, we're talking about one of the most overlooked pennies in history, the 1979 D-Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny. And trust me, this coin isn't just for collectors, it's a serious gold mine for those lucky enough to find one. Now, I know what you're thinking, is this guy serious? A penny worth $1.5 million? Oh, I'm serious, alright. And I'm about to tell you everything you need to know so you don't miss out on a potential windfall. So stick with me, because this penny might just change the way you look at your pocket change forever. You might be asking, what makes this particular penny worth so much? After all, 1979 isn't exactly ancient history, right? We're not talking about some rare, centuries-old artifact here. This penny is barely older than most of our favorite retro sneakers. But there's something about this coin that makes it extra special. So, let's break it down. First, we're looking at the 1979 Lincoln penny that was minted at the Denver Mint, and that D-Mint mark is crucial. Why? Because of a little mintage anomaly, this penny's got a rare error, which, when found in pristine condition, makes it worth a fortune. Now, I know what you're thinking, okay, but why is it worth $1.5 million? Isn't that a little crazy? Well, here's where the magic happens. The reason this penny is valued at such a high price is because it's super rare in its error form. A lot of the 1979 D pennies were produced normally, but a few slipped through the cracks with an extremely rare double die error. That means the design on the coin was struck twice, giving it that slightly off look. Some collectors will pay top dollar for an error coin, especially one as rare as this. Alright, before you run to your drawers and start scouring for pennies, let's talk about how to identify this thing. You won't need an X-ray machine, but you will need a keen eye. The key is to look for noticeable doubling in the design. If Lincoln's face or the letters look a bit, well, fatter than usual, you've probably got yourself a winner. It's crazy how many people have these in their change jars without even realizing it. I mean, come on, who knew that something as mundane as a penny could be worth a small fortune, right? But here's the catch, the penny has to be in mint condition. That means it can't be worn down, scratched, or otherwise battered by years of heavy use. A coin that's been used as a bottle opener isn't going to fetch you $1.5 million anytime soon. Funny story, a few months ago, I was at a flea market. I love flea markets, by the way, so many cool things, and I came across a guy selling a vintage penny. At first glance, it looked like every other penny from the 70s, but he swore up and down that it was worth big bucks. I took one look at it, and sure enough, the poor guy had mistaken a regular 1979 D for a rare double die error. I had to break the news to him gently, but that's when I realized how many people still don't know the value of certain coins. That's why I'm here, spreading the word, one penny at a time. Okay, let's talk about where to sell this beauty if you find one. You're not exactly going to roll up to the local grocery store and ask them to check if they've got a $1.5 million penny, right? Selling these rare coins can be tricky, but there are options. You can sell it at an auction, where collectors from around the world will bid for it, or you can approach a reputable coin dealer who knows how to spot the real deal. Whatever you do, don't try to sell it on eBay without first getting it properly appraised. Trust me, you'll want an expert to help you avoid any potential scams. Speaking of which, here's a little bonus tip: when you do find a rare coin like this, don't be shy. Get it authenticated by a professional. Authentication services can help you get the right price by proving the coin's legitimacy. Plus, it'll save you the stress of wondering if you're about to sell $1 million coin for, like, $50. So there you have it, your 1979 D-Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny just might be a goldmine waiting to be uncovered. Whether you find one in your spare change or buy a box of pennies and start hunting, the possibilities are endless. And hey, even if you don't find one, knowing about this coin could give you the upper hand next time you're at a coin shop or an auction. Before I wrap up, let me leave you with one last thought: when it comes to collecting valuable coins, knowledge is your best friend. The more you know, the more you can spot those hidden treasures. If you've enjoyed this video and want to learn more about coins that could be worth way more than you ever imagined, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button. Trust me, I've got tons of tips, tricks, and coin strategies lined up for you. And hey, you never know when your next coin find could be worth a small fortune. Hey, coin collectors and history buffs. Ever come across a coin and think, hey, this could be worth a fortune? Well, if you've ever stumbled upon a 1960 D-Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny, you might just be holding a goldmine worth $1.6 million. Yes, you heard that right. No, this isn't a joke, and I promise I'm not pulling your leg. If you're wondering how on earth a simple penny could be worth more than a nice car, stick with me for the next few minutes. I'm about to take you on a wild ride through the world of rare coins, and trust me, it's going to be worth your while. Before we get into all the nitty-gritty details, grab that magnifying glass, because we're diving deep into the fascinating world of the 1960 D penny. Let's get started. Alright, let's break it down. You're probably thinking, a penny? Worth $1 million? Is this some kind of joke? I get it. I had the same reaction the first time I heard about a penny worth a small fortune. I mean, it's just a penny, right? You might find them in between the couch cushions, under your car seat, or buried in that one drawer you swear you'll clean out one day. But the 1960 D Lincoln penny? Oh, this bad boy has a story to tell. So, why is the 1960 D penny worth $1.6 million today? Well, here's where things get interesting. In 1960, the US Mint made millions of these pennies, but here's the kicker: the 1960 D penny has some very unique features that set it apart. To really understand the value, you need to know about a tiny little mistake that happened during production, and that's what makes this penny a hot commodity. You see, in 1960, the mint had a slight mix-up with the design of the coin. The reverse side, that's the one with the shield, for those of you who aren't coin nerds, no judgment here, was supposed to have a smooth edge. But, because of a hiccup in the production process, some of these pennies got out with a little extra blemish on the edge, creating a double die error. This means the penny got struck twice by the die, giving it a double imprint that makes it incredibly rare. Now, imagine this: you're sorting through a bunch of change, maybe you're sifting through your coin jar, looking for quarters to buy a coffee, and you find one of these bad boys. That little mistake is your ticket to a $1.6 million payday. It's like discovering a hidden treasure in the bottom of your purse. And if you ever find one, make sure to call up an expert or a coin dealer, because you just might have a small fortune in your hands. And now, I know what you're thinking. Okay, but how do I know if my penny is a 1960 D with the error? Well, you've got to take a really close look. I mean, really close. Like, I'm talking magnifying glass level close. The double die error will appear on the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust, making them appear bold and doubled. You'll also notice some weirdly off-center features on Lincoln's portrait. It's like finding a tiny piece of history just sitting there in your pocket. But here's where the plot thickens: not every 1960 D penny is worth that $1.6 million. If you find a regular, run-of-the-mill one with no errors, you might be able to get a few cents for it at best. The key to the big bucks is that double die error. So, if you're lucky enough to find one, treat it like the rare gem it is. Let me tell you a quick story. One day, I was rummaging through a box of old coins I inherited from my grandfather. He was a huge collector, and when he passed, he left me a whole bunch of pennies. I had a feeling some of these might be valuable, but I wasn't expecting to find anything crazy. I mean, they were just pennies, right? Wrong. I came across a 1960 penny that looked a little off. I wasn't sure if it was the lighting or just my imagination, but I started doing some research. Long story short, I found out it was a double die error. Not quite the $1.6 million jackpot, but it was still worth way more than I thought. Moral of the story: never underestimate the power of a penny. So, what's the takeaway here? If you ever find a 1960 Lincoln penny, you'll want to inspect it closely. The double die error could be worth $1.6 million or even more, depending on its condition and rarity. It's like finding a treasure buried in plain sight. If you're looking to learn more about rare coins, how to spot valuable ones, and other tips and tricks on building your collection, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. I've got plenty more tips to help you avoid the normal pennies and hunt down the ones that'll make your wallet a little heavier. And hey, if you do find a 1960 penny in your collection, let me know. I want to hear about your coin hunting adventures. Drop a comment below, share your stories, and let's geek out together over the world of coins. Remember, a penny saved is a penny earned, but a rare penny? Well, that's a whole other story. Hey there, fellow coin lovers. Have you ever had a coin sitting in your collection that you thought was just an old penny, only to discover it's worth a small fortune? Well, hold on tight, because today we're diving into one of those rare finds, the 1967 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. You heard that right. A penny from 1967, without a mint mark, worth an eye-watering $1.7 million. That's not a typo, folks, $1.7 million bucks. It might just be time to check your piggy banks and couch cushions. Now, I know what you're thinking, but isn't a penny just a penny? And, honestly, that's what I used to think too. But there are coins out there that are so rare, they can make you a small fortune if you know where to look. So grab your magnifying glass and your trusty coin folder, because we're about to go deep into the wild world of the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Let's start with the basics. This coin is no ordinary penny. Normally, when we think of a Lincoln penny, we expect to see a mint mark. Mint marks are those little letters stamped onto coins to indicate which U.S. mint produced them. For example, a D means it was minted in Denver, and an S means it came from San Francisco. But what if I told you that some 1967 pennies were made without any mint mark at all? That's right, a no-mint mark penny. So, why does this little detail make the 1967 penny worth a fortune? It all comes down to rarity. It's believed that a handful of these no-mint mark pennies were accidentally struck in 1967, and they never made it into regular circulation. This makes them incredibly rare. Think about it this way: you've heard of the old saying, finders, keepers, losers, weepers, right? Well, if you find a 1967 no-mint mark penny, you are definitely the keeper of a serious treasure. And now, let me throw in a fun fact. The reason these pennies are so valuable isn't because of the materials they're made from. After all, it's still just a copper penny, right? But what makes them valuable is that they were accidentally produced. It's one of those whoops moments in history where a small error created something extraordinary. Here's where the story gets even more interesting. When these 1967 no-mint mark pennies were first discovered, they were mostly seen as just old, worn-out pennies. But as time passed, collectors and coin experts started to realize the significance of these minting mistakes. As more of them were found, the price started to climb. Today, if you were to find one in mint condition, you'd be holding a coin worth $1.70 million. Now, let me tell you a little story. A couple of years ago, I was at a coin show, chatting with an old-timer who had been collecting for decades. He was showing off a bunch of his favorite finds, and I, of course, was geeking out over all the cool coins he had. Well, one of his prized possessions was a 1967 no-mint mark penny. He kept it in a special case, like it was his most prized possession. He told me, "This little penny? It's not just a coin, it's a piece of history." And let me tell you, he was right. If you ever find one of these rare beauties, you'll know what I mean. But here's the thing, finding a 1967 no-mint mark penny isn't easy. I wish I could tell you there's a secret trick to finding them in circulation, but sadly, that's not the case. Most of these pennies are in the hands of collectors or tucked away in people's personal collections. That said, don't let that discourage you. Just knowing about these rare coins is the first step in becoming a successful coin collector, alright? So there you have it, the 1967 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. If you happen to find one, you could be looking at a coin worth a cool $1.7 million. And let me tell you, that's no small change. Just imagine, you could go from having a handful of pennies to having a treasure trove in your hands. So, what's the takeaway here? Be on the lookout. Check your change, inspect those old coin jars, and keep your eyes peeled for anything that might be a little unusual. You never know what rare find you might stumble upon. And hey, if you've got a collection of your own, maybe it's time to start checking your coins a little more carefully before you go. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more tips on coins that could make you a fortune. Who knows? Your next coin could be worth $1 million. Or maybe not. But I'll tell you this, you'll have a lot of fun learning about the ones that are. Catch you in the next video. Keep on collecting, and remember, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Hey there, coin collectors and curious treasure hunters. Imagine this, you're just going about your day, maybe doing some spring cleaning or rummaging through an old jar of coins you've had forever. You find a penny. Yep, a penny. But not just any penny. You know, the kind you toss into a drawer because it's just a penny. Well, what if I told you that penny, this tiny little copper disc, could be worth a small fortune? Sounds too good to be true, right? Well, brace yourself, because today we're talking about the 1964 Lincoln penny, a coin that's worth up to $1.8 million. Yeah, you heard me right. $1.8 million for a penny. That's not a typo. And no, I didn't just hit my head on the keyboard, so if you've got a 1964 sitting around, you might just be sitting on a gold mine. Or, well, a copper mine. Let's dive in, and I'll show you why this seemingly ordinary penny could change your life, or at least your bank account, alright? First things first. What makes the 1964 Lincoln penny so special? It's not just your run-of-the-mill copper coin from the 60s. No. This little guy has some history and a whole lot of mystery packed into it. Let's break it down. In 1964, the United States was finishing up its silver coins, and the penny had already made its switch to pure copper by that point. But that's not what makes this particular coin rare. What sets the 1964 apart is the mint mark. The D tells us it was made in Denver, and it's part of a specific series of pennies that were produced in high quantities. But here's the kicker, there are certain conditions or flaws that make this penny more valuable than all the others, and trust me, you want those flaws. So here's the thing. The 1964 penny is known for having a rare error. Some of these pennies were struck with a double die error. It's like a little extra punch in the minting process. Imagine trying to stamp a document and the stamp kind of slips, leaving a double impression. That's the effect we're looking for, but on a tiny penny. The doubling effect can be spotted on the date or on the lettering. Now, it's not every 1964 penny that has this error, just a few lucky ones that make it into collectors' hands. But wait, there's more. Even if your 1964 doesn't have that double die error, the condition is key. A penny that's been carefully preserved, with no visible wear and tear, could also fetch you a pretty penny, pun intended. If it's in mint condition, collectors are very interested. A well-preserved 1964 penny could still bring in a decent amount, though not quite the $1.8 million we're dreaming about. But hey, a few $1,000 still isn't too shabby for a coin that was likely passed around as change back in the day. Alright, so let's say you're on the hunt for that elusive gem. How do you spot one of these high-value pennies? First, check the mint mark. If it's a D, you're on the right track. Then, look at the date. Check the details closely, is the year clear? Is there any hint of doubling? Next, look at the quality of the coin. Is it shiny, almost as if it's just been struck? Or is it worn, like the penny you found under your couch cushion last week? The better the condition, the higher the potential value. Let me tell you about a time I found a coin that seemed worthless at first, until it wasn't. A few years ago, I was cleaning out my parents' attic when I came across an old jar of coins. It was one of those forgotten jars, the kind you toss loose change into when you can't be bothered to dig for exact change at the checkout. I took a look through it, figuring I might find a few old quarters or something, and then I found this 1965 penny. Just sitting there. I tossed it aside and started sorting the rest. Now, I'm not saying it was a 1964D or anything, but I did find a nice 1965 proof coin later that turned out to be worth more than I thought. My point is, you never know what you might stumble upon in your own collection or even in a jar of forgotten change. So if you find a 1964D Lincoln penny, hold on to it, or, better yet, get it checked out by an expert. You might just have a hidden treasure on your hands. So, there you have it, the 1964D Lincoln penny, the little copper coin that could make you a millionaire. While finding one in perfect condition or with that double die error is rare, it's not impossible. And even if you don't have one of those, don't toss that 1964D penny aside just yet. It could still be worth way more than you think. Now, before I let you go, I want to leave you with one final thought. Coin collecting isn't just about luck, it's about knowing what you have and understanding the history behind it. With just a little research and a keen eye, you could turn an old penny into a small fortune. So, if you've learned something today, and I hope you have, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for more tips on valuable coins, market trends, and strategies for finding the next big treasure in your change jar. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on future videos. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting. May your coins always be worth more than their weight in copper. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you learned something new, and drop a comment below if you've ever found a coin worth more than you thought. I'd love to hear your stories, and who knows, maybe your penny is next.